Having a bag, that's what separates NBA superstars from the rest. The handles, the footwork, the smooth pull-ups from deep. Kyrie, Steph, Harden, Luka, KD, even LeBron. These are players with deep skill sets, the kind that leave defenders frozen, guessing what's coming next. But what if I told you there was a star who had none of that? In fact, he was mocked by his peers. James Harden once said,
"Running with 7 feet and running just dunk. Like that takes no skill at all."
To many, he looked like a one-trick pony, just long strides, brute force, and dunks. And yet he dominated. Night after night, he bulldozed through defenders like a man among boys. You couldn't stop him. You couldn't even slow him down. He didn't beat you with finesse. He beat you with freakish athleticism and relentless effort. This is the story of Giannis Antetokounmpo, the NBA star with no bag, who still bullied the entire league. But to understand how he became this unstoppable force, we have to go back to where it all began, on the streets of Sepolia, Greece.
My name is Giannis Antetokounmpo. I can jump, I can shoot, I can pass the ball, I can do everything.
Before the MVPs, the finals glory, and the 50-point championship clincher, there was just a kid. Not a prospect, not a future superstar. Just a barefoot boy in Athens sharing a bed with 3 brothers in a cramped apartment and trying to survive. Giannis Antetokounmpo was born on December 6, 1994, in Sepolia, Greece, to Nigerian immigrants Charles and Veronica. Life was already an uphill climb. His parents left Lagos with hope, but found a hardship. As undocumented immigrants in Greece, they couldn't get steady work. And without jobs, they couldn't gain legal status. It was a vicious cycle. No papers, no jobs, no future. Giannis grew up stateless, undocumented in the only country he had ever known. For the first 18 years of his life, he had no passport, no official identity, and no rights. To make things worse, Greece in the early 2000s was boiling with tension. In the wake of the country's financial collapse, immigrants were increasingly scapegoated. A far-right political party called Golden Dawn began to rise, preaching racism, violence, and nationalism. These weren't fringe extremists. They were sitting in Greek parliament and marching through the streets in broad daylight. Members of Golden Dawn were accused of assassinations, beatings, and terrorist activity. Their leader, Nikolaos Mikaloliakos, once referred to Giannis with this chilling quote, "If you give a chimpanzee in the zoo a banana and a flag, is he Greek?" When Giannis was drafted in 2013, it wasn't just Greece that noticed. So did Golden Dawn. Mikaloliakos said Giannis shouldn't be considered Greek because he was the son of Nigerian immigrants. He even suggested that his family should have been arrested for their undocumented status when they visited the Prime Minister's office. For extremists, Giannis represented everything they feared. A black, stateless immigrant redefining what it meant to be Greek. Giannis and his younger brother Alex used to race home from school, not for fun, but to avoid being spotted near Golden Dawn's headquarters. The threat was real. Their only protection was their speed. The Antetokounmpo family lived in constant fear. Rent was never guaranteed. Food was a daily question. Giannis once said, "Some days, we didn't sell the stuff and we didn't have money to feed ourselves." He often went without a real meal until 11 p.m., if at all. His early years were marked by hunger, cramped spaces, and survival. To help the family, Giannis and his brothers sold sunglasses, watches, DVDs, whatever they could carry, on the streets. Even when he started playing basketball, he remained underweight from years of malnourishment. When coaches tried feeding him extra to help him bulk up, he refused unless his family ate the same. So the solution? Feed them all.
So we decide to everybody to eat the same.
The Antetokounmpo meal plan was a family deal. And his dream? It wasn't basketball. Giannis wanted to play soccer, like his father. So when a local coach, Vasilis Xenakis, approached him to join a basketball team, Giannis said no. But Xenakis made a promise. Try basketball. Maybe you'll make some money. If not, I'll find you a soccer team. That promise turned out to be unnecessary. Because once Giannis picked up a basketball, everything changed. What happened next would flip his life upside down, and eventually shake up the entire NBA. So if you're into stories that build legends from nothing, go ahead and subscribe. The best part of this journey is still ahead. Giannis didn't grow up chasing basketball greatness. He chased opportunity, any kind he could find, and when he finally gave the game a shot, it clicked faster than anyone could have expected. What started as a survival tactic quickly became an obsession. The gym at Philathleticos was dim and dusty, but it became his second home. Alongside his brothers, he threw himself into the game with obsessive focus. He and Kostas walked 5 miles each way to the gym, often sleeping there overnight, because the walk back was too far or too dangerous. They shared shoes, shared meals, shared dreams. On the court, Giannis was raw. No polished jumper, no post-game, but he was relentless. Hustle didn't need translation. And even though he was still growing into his frame, his mindset was already molded by hardship, by hunger, and by one unlikely source of inspiration.
I used to watch a lot of highlights of Iverson.
Not surprisingly, Giannis exudes Iverson's fearlessness, that chip on the shoulder. That became Giannis's blueprint. He may have grown a foot taller, but he carried Iverson's edge in his soul. By the 2012-13 season, Giannis was playing for Philathlytikos' senior team in Greece's second division. His stats didn't jump off the page, about 9.5 points and 5 rebounds per game, but scouts were starting to see what others couldn't. A 6'9" kid with the wingspan of a center and the instincts of a point guard? That couldn't be taught. One of the first to take serious notice was Yeroni Arbel, a scout for the New Orleans Hornets. After receiving a tip, Arbel flew to Greece. Giannis had a quiet game that night, but Arbel didn't need highlights to recognize potential. He kept watching, and so did others. But one team moved quicker than the rest, the Milwaukee Bucks. They sent international scouting director Jeff Wooten. Then GM John Hammond and assistant GM David Morway flew in. What they saw blew them away. This wasn't just a promising player, it was a blank canvas with freakish gifts and a hunger that couldn't be coached. And once the Bucks realized what they had stumbled onto, they went silent. "We didn't want to talk about him too much," Hammond later said. "We didn't want anyone else to know what we saw." But secrets in the NBA don't last long. When Giannis signed with Spanish club Zaragoza, with an NBA out clause, word got out fast. Scouts started buzzing. The Raptors, Hawks, Mavericks, and Hornets all began circling. One team in particular, the Atlanta Hawks, were so intrigued they tried to schedule a last-minute secret meeting just before the draft. They had their eyes set on Giannis and hoped he might fall to them. But Milwaukee moved faster. They had done their homework early. Months of quiet scouting trips, background checks, and deep-dive tape study convinced them Giannis was worth the gamble. When their pick came at number 15, they didn't wait to see what Atlanta would do. They took him.
With the 15th pick in the 2013 NBA Draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Giannis Antetokounmpo.
And Giannis was ready to take the leap, on one condition.
I didn't want to leave my family back, because I ride and die for my family.
After everything his family had been through, sharing shoes, empty fridges, hiding from extremists, this moment wasn't just his. It belonged to all of them. But most of his family still didn't have travel papers. They were undocumented, except for one, Thanasis, his older brother and protector. So Giannis boarded the flight, not alone, but with Thanasis by his side. On June 27, 2013, with the 15th overall pick, the Milwaukee Bucks made their move. They selected Giannis Antetokounmpo, a lanky, wide-eyed teenager who barely spoke English, had no mixtape, no national spotlight, but had something far more important, a survivor's fire, and the kind of loyalty that never forgets who helped you climb. When Giannis Antetokounmpo landed in Milwaukee, he wasn't just adjusting to the NBA, he was adjusting to an entirely new world. He was 18 years old, tall, skinny, and barely 190 pounds. He didn't speak fluent English.
Seeing I'm doing, playing in the NBA.
He had never driven a car. He didn't know how to use a washing machine. He didn't even feel comfortable sleeping in a bed by himself. When the Bucks put him up in a luxury hotel in downtown Milwaukee with fluffy pillows and perfect lighting, Giannis didn't feel at ease. The comfort made him anxious. The space felt wrong. He wasn't used to this much anything. So he took the mattress off the bed and slept on the floor. Because for most of his life, he slept shoulder to shoulder with his brothers in a tiny apartment in Sepolia. This solitude, this softness, it felt too far removed from the struggle he still carried with him. Despite his new environment, Giannis never stopped thinking about his family. He sent most of his paycheck back home. He didn't even trust direct deposit. He requested paper checks so he could see and feel the money. A staffer once walked into his apartment and found stacks of unopened envelopes filled with cash, and just his per diem meal money from the team. Giannis looked up and said, "Oh, that's for my family when they come here. I'm saving it for them." He didn't splurge. he didn't indulge. When he bought 2 sandwiches, he felt guilty. Why do I need 2? He'd think. While other rookies were buying jewelry, Giannis was saving his snack money for his mom. That's how deeply the scarcity mindset was ingrained in him. Even after he made it, he couldn't shake the fear of losing it all. Sometimes, he admitted, I'd think, what if I wake up tomorrow and I'm right back where I started? The truth is, success made life harder in some ways. Giannis had gone from invisible immigrant to an NBA player, and that came with pressure. He was now the sole breadwinner for his entire family, and yet he was still learning how to live in America, still figuring out the language, still navigating the greatest basketball league on the planet. But if you thought that pressure would slow him down, you didn't understand Giannis. Every game meant something. Even the Rising Stars Challenge, a meaningless exhibition to most rookies, was a war to him. When he barely played in that game, sitting on the bench while others laughed, he was fuming. His coach that night, Nate McMillan, lost track of subs, but Giannis didn't see it as an oversight, he saw it as disrespect. Politely, he turned to McMillan and said, "Coach, what about me?" After the game, still frustrated, he went straight to Bucks assistant coach Josh Oppenheimer and said, "Coach Nate isn't going to pay for this. He put me on the bench. He did it on purpose." Giannis doesn't raise his voice, but he stores everything. He told McMillan after that game, "I'll be back next year." Years later, when the Bucks faced McMillan's Hawks in the 2021 Eastern Conference Finals, some wondered, did Giannis remember that moment? Did he carry that slight with him? If you know Giannis, the answer's obvious. He remembered, because the same kid who ran to the arena in the snow because he couldn't afford a taxi is the same man who never forgets who doubted him. And that chip on his shoulder? It's permanent. Giannis had made it to the NBA, but life was still far from easy. He was alone in a new country, sending most of his paycheck back to Greece, and trying to navigate a world that felt nothing like home. But what most people don't know is that Giannis nearly walked away after his rookie season. Not because of basketball, but because his family still hadn't arrived. For Giannis, success meant nothing without them.
Giannis said, if you guys can't come to America, I'm going back to Greece.
The Giannis that entered the NBA in 2013 was barely recognizable from the one who would dominate it just a few years later. He came in as a 6'9" string bean with long limbs, a soft voice,
My name is Giannis Antetokounmpo.
and a boyish frame. But what no one saw coming, what even he couldn't have predicted, was what his body was about to become. Between his rookie year and his third season, Giannis underwent a transformation that felt almost unreal. He hit a late growth spurt, sprouting to nearly 7 feet tall, and began packing on muscle, over 50 pounds of it, through relentless training, eating, and the Bucks' focused development program. But the most terrifying part? He didn't lose any of his guard-like coordination. He was now a nearly 7-foot-tall point forward who could handle like a guard, leap like a wing, and defend like a center. The NBA had never seen anything quite like him. His physical evolution wasn't cosmetic. It completely changed how he played. He became a matchup nightmare. Too quick for bigs, too long for guards, too determined for anyone. And the numbers started catching up to the eye test. By his third season, Giannis was flirting with stardom. He was filling up the box score in ways that turned heads around the league. Then came the breakthrough, the 2016 to 2017 season. Giannis made history that year by becoming the first player in NBA history to finish top 20 in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. He averaged 23 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and nearly 2 blocks per game. And he was just 22 years old. That year, he was named an All-Star for the first time. And at the end of the season, he was awarded the NBA's Most Improved Player. It wasn't even close. The kid who had once shared shoes with his brother was now sharing the court with legends and holding his own. But success didn't change him. If anything, it made him hungrier. He never got caught up in the flash or the fame. Giannis didn't chase highlight reels. He chased wins. He didn't care about viral clips. He cared about getting better. His training sessions were intense. His mindset never wavered. And his body, it was still evolving, still growing stronger, like a myth in motion. Opponents started calling him a cheat code. Coaches began game planning around him. But Giannis didn't want to just be an athletic marvel. He wanted to be great, complete, relentless. And behind the growing muscles and rising stat lines, he was still that kid from Sepolia. Still saving money in envelopes. Still sending everything he could back to his family. Still carrying the weight of where he came from and where he wanted to take them. The NBA had a new rising star, but Giannis, he still played like he had everything to prove. By the end of the 2018 season, Giannis Antetokounmpo wasn't just a rising star, he was a full-blown force of nature. The kid once drafted as a project had turned himself into a juggernaut, and in 2019 the league officially recognized it. Giannis won his first MVP. He averaged 27.7 points, 12.5 rebounds, and 5.9 assists per game, leading the Bucks to a league-best 60-22 record. But it wasn't just the numbers, it was the dominance. Giannis would grab a rebound, sprint the length of the floor in like 3 or 4 steps, and dunk through defenders, like they were traffic cones. He became a one-man fast break, a defensive wall, and an impossible matchup. He wasn't just bullying the league, he was transforming the way people saw positionless basketball. And yet, when the playoffs came, everything shifted. In the Eastern Conference Finals, Milwaukee faced the Toronto Raptors. The Bucks jumped out to a 2-0 lead.
The celebration can begin.
Then came the wall. Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors clogged the paint, forced Giannis to the perimeter, and dared him to beat them with skill instead of force. The plan worked. The Raptors won 4 straight. The Bucks were sent home. The MVP had been neutralized, and just like that, the conversation changed. He's unstoppable in the regular season, but not in the playoffs. The next year, Giannis came back even better. In 2020, he averaged 29.5 points, 13.6 rebounds, and anchored the league's best defense. He was rewarded with his second consecutive MVP, and also Defensive Player of the Year.
Congrats to Giannis on being named Defensive Player of the Year.
Only Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon had ever accomplished both in the same season. But the playoffs? They were brutal. In the COVID bubble, Milwaukee met the Miami Heat in the second round and got exposed. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo followed Toronto's blueprint. Another wall, another early exit. Giannis injured his ankle in the series, and the Bucks went down in 5. The narrative was no longer a whisper. It was a roar. He has no bag. He can't shoot. You can't win with Giannis. James Harden, when asked about Giannis, didn't hold back.
I wish I could just run and with 7 feet and run and just dunk. Like, that takes no skill at all. I got to actually learn how to play basketball and how to have skill.
And for the first time, people started wondering, was it time for Giannis to leave? His contract was expiring in 2021. Every big market was watching. Golden State, Miami, Toronto. The league was ready to poach Milwaukee's star. But Giannis didn't leave. He doubled down. In December 2020, just months after back-to-back playoff heartbreaks, Giannis signed a 5-year, $228 million Supermax extension with the Milwaukee Bucks, the richest deal in NBA history at the time. No meetings, no media circus, no trade requests, just one message. This is my home, this is my city. In an era of super teams and superstar mobility, Giannis chose loyalty, chose the hard way, chose the small market that believed in him first. He stayed. And now, the weight of an entire franchise rested on his shoulders. By 2020, Giannis wasn't just carrying the weight of a franchise, he was carrying the weight of grief. After back-to-back playoff heartbreaks, and a wave of national criticism questioning his game, his leadership, and even his worthiness as a 2-time MVP, few people knew what else Giannis was battling behind the scenes. In September 2017, his father, Charles Antetokounmpo, had passed away suddenly from a heart attack at just 54 years old. Charles had been more than a father. He was Giannis's moral compass, the quiet engine behind every hustle play, every rebound, every drive to the basket. He was the one who taught him to be selfless, to fight for his family, and to walk with humility. And after losing in the bubble to the Miami Heat, after hearing the world say he'd never win, never had a bag, never deserved the crown, everything boiled over. I was about to walk away from the game, Giannis admitted. But it wasn't about basketball anymore, it was about happiness, about peace, about reconnecting with what truly mattered. If something doesn't make me happy, I don't do it, he said. I don't want to do it. I'm just going to stay home, stay with my kids, stay with my family, and try to be happy. I don't care. And this was right when I signed the largest contract in NBA history. In 2020, I was ready to walk away from the game. I had that conversation, yes, with the front office. And you know, very normally, everybody is looking at me like I was crazy. You just signed the largest contract in NBA history, and you want to walk away from the game and all that money. Man, you can take that money and shove it into your... But I don't care about that. I care about joy. I'm a joyful person. My father didn't have nothing. He had us. He was the richest person on earth because he had his kids. He had the beautiful family. He had nothing. This, to me, doesn't mean nothing. He wasn't being dramatic, he was being honest. In a league driven by contracts and legacies, Giannis confronted something much bigger, the emptiness of success without peace. He was exhausted, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and for the first time since his rookie season, he wanted to quit. The turning point for Giannis was seeking help from a counselor. I kept talking with this counselor. He helped me a lot, not just being a better basketball player, being able to deal with it, but being a better partner, better father, better brother, better son, better person. Being not locked into myself, being able to give people what I feel. Because at one point, I was trying to get away from everybody. And that's not me. I'm very social. I like to interact with other people. Therapy didn't erase the pain, but it gave him tools to carry it, to understand it, to channel it. Slowly, Giannis returned, not just to the court, but to himself. Giannis's journey through grief following his father's passing became the inspiration behind the Charles Antetokounmpo Family Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting individuals and families facing mental health challenges, named in honor of the man who meant everything to him. The pressure was at an all-time high. 2 MVPs, a Defensive Player of the Year, but no championship, no finals appearances. And for some, that made Giannis Antetokounmpo's resume feel incomplete. Critics called him overrated, a regular season merchant, an athletic marvel with no skill, no bag, no jump shot. But Giannis didn't flinch. He didn't leave. Didn't recruit a super team, despite the media pressure. He re-signed with the Milwaukee Bucks, a small market franchise that hadn't won a title in 50 years, and doubled down on his mission. And in 2021, everything finally clicked. In the first round, the Bucks drew the Miami Heat, the same team that embarrassed them in the bubble. This time there would be no repeat. Giannis played like a man possessed. Milwaukee swept Miami in 4 games, exercising his demons with surgical precision. It wasn't revenge, it was redemption. The message was clear. This was not the same Giannis, and this was not the same Bucks team. Next came the Brooklyn Nets, the most star-studded team in the league. Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. Many thought it was already over after Brooklyn blew out Milwaukee in Game 2. But fate had other plans. An early hamstring injury left Harden hobbling through the series, a shell of his usual self. In Game 4, Kyrie went down with a brutal ankle sprain, and just like that, he was done for the series. Giannis and the Bucks capitalized, but the series still pushed them to the edge. Durant put on an all-time performance, dropping 49 points in Game 5 and nearly ending Milwaukee's run in Game 7 with a deep shot that would have been a series winner if his foot wasn't on the line. Giannis responded with 40 points in that Game 7. In overtime, with everything on the line, he powered through exhaustion, double teams, and doubt, and dragged the Bucks into the conference finals. But just when it seemed like the path was opening, disaster struck. In the Eastern Conference Finals against the Atlanta Hawks, Giannis soared to contest a lob, and landed awkwardly. His knee bent backwards as in a way knees shouldn't. It looked like the season was over, like his story was about to become another what could have been. He missed Games 5 and 6. The Bucks held on barely. With Giannis sidelined, it was up to the supporting cast to keep the dream alive. Chris Middleton stepped up like a true all-star. Drew Holiday played relentless defense and made timely plays. The role players, so often overlooked, rose to the occasion and dragged Milwaukee past the Hawks in 6 games. But as they celebrated in Atlanta, a bigger question hung in the air. Would Giannis be ready for the finals? The MRI brought hope. It showed no structural damage, no torn ligaments. But there was still uncertainty. A hyperextended knee isn't something you bounce back from overnight. Some feared he might be done for the season. And then, almost unbelievably, Giannis returned.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, after missing the last 2 games of the conference finals, is in the lineup.
Just in time for Game 1 of the NBA Finals, battered, bruised, but back. It only took 1 game for Giannis to find his rhythm again. Game 1 was a warm-up, 20 points, modest by his standards. But after that, he erupted. In Game 2, Giannis exploded for 42 points. But despite his heroics, the Bucks still fell short, and the Phoenix Suns jumped out to a commanding 2-0 series lead. Commentators began writing Milwaukee off.
It's over! That's what you were supposed to say. It's over, it's over, it's over.
What?
But Giannis and the Bucks refused to fold. They clawed their way back, winning 3 straight and taking a 3-2 lead on the road. Then came Game 6, With the championship on the line, Giannis delivered one of the greatest performances in NBA Finals history. 50 points, 14 rebounds, 5 blocks. And the Bucks, after being down 0-2 in the series, won 4 straight games to claim their first title in 50 years. Giannis didn't just play basketball, he dominated. He chased down layups. He made plays that felt like something out of a video game. But perhaps the most unforgettable moment came with a block on DeAndre Ayton, a play that didn't just defy physics, it defied what we thought was humanly possible on a basketball court. It was a moment frozen in time, a play that will be etched alongside the greatest blocks in NBA Finals history, mentioned in the same breath as LeBron's legendary chase down on Andre Iguodala. He silenced his biggest critics by knocking down 17 of 19 free throws when it mattered most. Giannis didn't just dominate, he delivered, averaging 35.2 points, 13.2 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. Milwaukee hadn't won a championship since 1971, since Kareem and Oscar. Now they had Giannis, and as confetti fell, Giannis stood on stage and reminded the world,
But I could go to a super team and, just do my part and win a championship, still won. But this is the hard way to do it, and this is the way. And we did it.
The same kid who once shared shoes, sold DVDs on the street, and slept on the floor of a gym was now an NBA champion on his terms. Giannis could have left. He could have chased rings, but he stayed in Milwaukee, in the city that believed in him first.
Hey, let's go get the big trophy now.
And he still hasn't stopped dreaming. One of his greatest goals? To represent Greece in the Olympics. The boy once denied citizenship now dreams of carrying the Greek flag into the opening ceremony. Not for attention, but for meaning, for identity, for the kids like him who were told they don't belong. That dream, it finally became reality. Giannis led Greece to qualify for the 2024 Paris Olympics, not just as the team's superstar, but as the nation's flag bearer. The same kid who once sold sunglasses on the streets of Athens, now leading his country onto the world's biggest athletic stage. Because for Giannis, it was never just about basketball. It's always been about belonging, family, legacy. While the world argues over stats, rings, and GOAT lists, Giannis just keeps his head down and works. Still loyal, still hungry, still climbing. There have been heartbreaks since that magical 2021 championship run, but he's still grinding, still chasing that next title. Not just for validation, but for something deeper. To show the world he belongs among the all-time greats. Because deep down, he still plays like that skinny kid with one pair of shoes, no passport, and everything to prove. And he's not the only one. Half a continent away, another quiet giant was writing his own improbable story. A second-round pick, no mixtapes, no hype, no sculpted physique or viral dunks. Just pure, unfiltered basketball genius. Like Giannis, Nikola Jokic didn't come from the traditional basketball pipeline. He wasn't crowned a future star. He wasn't drafted to save a franchise. And he definitely didn't take the easy road. No super team, no All-NBA sidekick. Just a chubby kid from Serbia, drafted during a Taco Bell commercial, who would go on to dominate the NBA with one of the most unique skill sets the game has ever seen. If Giannis was built like a myth, Jokic was built like a mystery. And together, they've reshaped what it means to be a global superstar in today's NBA. This is the story of how Nikola Jokic, the least athletic GOAT, beat the odds, silenced the critics, and changed the game forever.